This is the Daily Night for Friday, May 6, 2016. The Daily Night supports Making Biscuits Cat Rescue, a 501c3 charity. If you like this podcast, please consider making a donation or adopting a rescue cat at makingbiscuits.org. I'm your host, Gerardo San Diego. And this morning, I snuck into the theater. Well, I paid, but I kind of at last minute snuck into a theater with a couple extra seats available, and I got to see Captain America Civil War. And this is a non-spoiler review, so I'm not going to say anything specific about the movie. There are a lot of specific spoilery things about this movie that will absolutely blow you away. I'm not going to talk about that right now. Today's Friday, and I'll probably talk about it on Sunday or Monday when everybody's got a chance to see it. And if you're wondering, should I see it like as soon as possible or wait a little bit and, when the crowd dies down, I say probably maybe 3 or 4 movies a year. I would say, no, you have to see it as soon as possible because everybody's going to be talking about this movie and all the elements of it. Excuse me. And there are so many elements of this movie that if it was spoiled for you, it would actually, I think, diminish your enjoyment of the movie. In my opinion, there are actually more notable spoilers in here than The Force Awakens. Not as traumatic, I'd say. In my personal opinion, we all know what happened in The Force Awakens, right? With Han Solo. But besides that was pretty much it for The Force Awakens. There were a little other things, but at the same time, at the end of The Force Awakens, there were more questions to be asked that will be answered in the next movie. Captain America Civil War has a lot of answers, and there are answers to questions that you didn't think you would even want to ask. How's that for a teaser? So if you are thinking of seeing this movie this weekend, go see it. There are so many theaters out right now, unless I hope you're not one of the unlucky ones that are very far from a theater, or your closest theater is always sold out. Because there's so many theaters playing this movie right now that it's, in my opinion, it's pretty easy to get in, especially if you're just one person. So that's basically what I did this morning. I have a packed weekend. I have a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of family stuff that I need to get done. If you've listened to one of the previous podcasts, I'm still chauffeuring my parents around. Because my dad can't drive yet. So we got to do a whole bunch of groceries and stuff this coming weekend. So I got to be the good son and drive them around. And I didn't know if I would have even had time to see this movie during the weekend, during normal times. By normal times, I'm thinking like lunch or dinner, later in the day. So this morning, Friday morning, and and I'm gonna do a shout out to David, our geek president, because Thursday night he got to see the movie and he had a 1-word review on Facebook, and he said perfection, and I'm going, oh great. It's like I was thinking of, well, if I get to see this movie this weekend, okay, but if not, I'll go see it like Monday morning. Because if you've listened to the other podcasts, I like to see a movie not in a super crowded theater, but I want to kind of relax. But when David said perfection, I'm thinking, oh man, I just got to go see it at the first opportunity, and it's a good, if you're trying to save money, like who isn't? And you are able to, like if you get Fridays off, especially if you get Fridays off from work, or if you work at home and call your own hours, go see it like at the 10 a.m. show, which I did this morning. I just woke up and realized, okay, I don't have to be available for anyone until about noon or 1 o'clock. So let me go run out and go see this movie and then come back. And then, my dad had a doctor's appointment in the afternoon, so I had to be back for that. So I just rushed on over to the theater. There was one seat left, which is a pretty good location. And I was able to see it, and the tickets were discounted because it was a matinee show. So I'm pretty sure you really care about my experiences at the theater. But let me, first of all, I think you will have a different experience, and if you see this movie, depending on when you see this movie, if you see this movie early in the morning when your mind is still kind of clear, or you're still kind of like you need your coffee, you will experience a different movie as opposed to if you've had a long day and you're sitting down and watching this movie. What amazes me about this movie is I think, just from my remembrance, my memory of seeing The Force Awakens, which I also saw very early in the morning, and I also saw later in the day, was it is as good a movie regardless of when you see it. It's just you're going to remember it for different things when you see it for the first time, whether it's in the morning or later in the day. So usually that's a good sign for a movie. If a movie stands out, or if a movie succeeds, no matter when you see it, no matter what mood you're in, no matter if you're hungry or full, whether you see it in a crowded theater or an empty theater, if a movie can be good, regardless of those other external elements, then you know you got a good movie on your hands. And Civil War is that movie. Pretty much, I woke up and got the ticket online, and then I rushed to the theater, which is like 5 minutes away from my house, less than that. And I plopped myself into the seat, and I kid you not, as soon as they started playing the movie, I did not move in my seat. I did not even shift in my seat. I remember I was scooched over to the right side, like my butt was right up against the right edge of the seat, and I realized that I hadn't moved for the first hour. That's how compelling this movie is. It doesn't freaking stop. But what I mean by it doesn't stop, it's not just action, action, action. It's a whole bunch of action that blows you away, and then you have this amazing storytelling, character exposition, character development, explanation of why things are, stuff that makes you think. And right when, okay, you got your little rest with our dialogue, and then they throw an action scene at you again. So it's like action scene, a bunch of wonderful script storytelling, and then another action scene, and then more amazing script storytelling, and then I'd say probably 4 or 5 action scenes, and you take any 2 of those action scenes and you would have a complete good superhero movie. I was so impressed by this movie, and keep in mind, I was still kind of half asleep when I saw it. And I get home, and I was still kind of just mellow. I didn't drink any coffee. I think I had like 3 sips of water, and then I rushed over to the theater, bad breath and everything. I didn't talk to anybody. And I sat in sort of like the front row, away from people, and the seats were kind of spaced out. But it's the kind of movie that you can also see it alone, or you can see it with a group of people. And it didn't really matter. I went alone, but the whole theater was buzzing. And there were moments where, okay, if you guys saw Deadpool, you probably at least 3 to 4 to 5 or more times during the movie just laughed out loud. Just out loud, like you couldn't even hold it in. You were just laughing out loud. I did that at least 4 times in Civil War. Funny stuff, and it's funny. It's not always from the characters that you expect it from, but you get those from those characters. I'm not going to say any specifics because it's sort of semi spoilery if I say that. And let me see. Clever dialogue, clever not in a I want to be clever kind of thing, but in a natural way, like you would be hanging out with your friends, and it's the kind of dialogue that when you're out and you know your friends and they know you, it's the kind of smart ass remarks that you would say to each other. It's not like it felt like it was written or forced. That's got that's what the movie has going for it. That's just one little element. The other element is one of the best scripts I've ever seen or heard. It is as good as The Winter Soldier. I wrote this on Facebook. You take the action of the original Avengers, the script of The Winter Soldier, and the comedy of Ant-Man. You take the best parts of those and you put them in one movie, and you have Captain America: Civil War. Another example, I couldn't when I got home. It's like I was trying to do other stuff, and I'd like go back to social network. Shame on me, and I would be tweeting and writing on Facebook and Instagramming, and it's like don't go to my Instagrams because I do a little bit of a semi-spoilery Instagram memes. One thing I can tell you before I forget. Chadwick Boseman this is not spoilery. Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, and everybody's been talking about him. And it's not just me, but also remember David, the one who said perfection. David wrote on his Facebook page, Black Panther does a better Batman than Batman. Now, can you imagine that? And keep in mind, Black Panther is not the top 3, or at least the top 2 leads of this movie. It's Captain America, Iron Man, and the Winter Soldier. So, you got Black Panther. You've probably heard about Spider-Man already. So, of course, he's in this movie, and without giving anything away. And I can say this as a blanket statement through the whole movie. You will be satisfied with the development and execution, entertainment-wise, of every character in this movie. Whether you like Wanda, Scarlet Witch, or the Vision, or Iron Man, Captain America, Winter Soldier, Black Panther, Spider-Man, Ant-Man, Hawkeye. Am I missing anybody? War Machine, Rhodey. Who else? Black Widow. Oh my God, Scarlett Johansson. That's another thing. They're talking about. They're definitely going to make a movie for Black Widow, and the movie is about 2.5 hours long, a little bit like 2 hours 31 minutes long. And I really don't know how they were able to do everything that they did within 2.5 hours. If a movie succeeds as well as this movie in juggling so many elements and superheroes and locations and plot lines and subplot lines and crises and character development and trying to fit everything together so it doesn't feel like there are like 10 different stories happening all at once, and nothing. They're not bound together. I don't know if another movie will be able to do this again. But then again, keep in mind, at least my personal opinion, I keep saying this about every subsequent Marvel movie. I keep saying they can't do better than this. They can't do better than this, and they keep doing better than this. So that's what amazes me about Marvel. And also, well, now I also sometimes read some of the comic books. I did read Civil War 2006. Oh, actually, it came to mind. If you did read the Civil War 2006 storyline from the comic books, um, this you don't have to read it. Yeah, it's too spoilery if I tell you anything else. But um, you don't need to read that 2006 comic book series in order to appreciate the movie. Period. Um, you will probably be better served if you had seen the previous Marvel MCU movies, especially Captain America: The Winter Soldier, the Avengers: Age of Ultron, Ant-Man, and what else? And maybe the Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton. Go figure. I can't tell you why. Um, what else? Avengers. Yeah, yeah. So okay. I also wrote that, and I'm not gonna tell you when it happened in the movie, but there are certain elements. It's almost as if they took four different movies, like the best movies of their subgenre, and they made this one movie with all the cool parts from those other movies. There are parts, I'm not kidding you, that reminded me of the Jason Bourne movies. Uh, uh, the chase sequences, fight scenes. They did it like a Jason Bourne type action. Okay, they were able to do what J.J. Abrams did with The Force Awakens, which is to juggle all these elements and try to make an understandable, cohesive movie. Okay. Oh, you know what? Somebody else said, and very, very, very important. Let me see. I'm trying to remember who said this. Superhero News. The good guys at Superhero News. They're another video bloggers. They said this is like the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and that's all I can tell you. It just in its tone and the way it unfolds the story and the way it makes you feel. It is, and they nailed it. It's very much like The Empire Strikes Back, and you know that arguably The Empire Strikes Back is the best Star Wars movie still out. So arguably, right? So, and how there's a gravitas with The Empire Strikes Back. There is a weight to the movie. There is it transcends the comic book sci-fi fanboy level, and it becomes just an amazing movie by itself. You can take all the superhero stuff out, and the story is absolutely compelling. You could have made this a Jason Bourne movie, and it would have been absolutely compelling. So what else? This how they introduced you to the different locations. Beautiful. God, the clarity of this movie is unbelievable. And also, try to see it in 3D. I usually don't recommend people seeing movies in 3D, but I think this actually will enhance your experience if you see it in 3D. I don't think it's that important where you sit in the theater, because what you hear is as good as what you see. So it's not like, you have to have front row center, perfectly aligned in order to appreciate everything. What else? The acting is spectacular. Again, it's an I need to see it a couple more times to determine whether or not it is better than The Winter Soldier. I have to see it a couple of more times to determine whether or not it is the best superhero movie I've ever seen. Okay? I'm about 3/4 through the movie. I was asking myself, is this better than The Dark Knight? Is this better than Spider-Man 2 with Tobey Maguire? And what I could tell you is, in terms of successes, like what percent of the film just knocked it out of the park, just succeeded, absolutely succeeded, versus maybe some weak spots, right? I would say 5% maybe of this movie had some kind of flaw, and it was even negligible. It's only if you nitpicked, it's you'll find 5%. The other 95% is, it is almost unbelievable how well the Russo brothers tied everything together and kept it entertaining and kept us from being bored, and also gave us useful information along with great acting, phenomenal action sequences, near flawless CGI, and the actors, Robert Downey Jr. and the rest, it felt like they upped their game in acting wise, not action wise, acting wise in this movie. It a lot of people are saying this already. I'm going to say it also. This has brought the Marvel Cinematic Universe to another level, and it's almost as if they, the Marvel Cinematic Universe crew, make a future MCU movie with less quality than this, we will notice it. This movie is so good that anything that isn't as good as it is, we're gonna start complaining. And I'm saying, like, if they make a movie like even the original Avengers again, we will complain, because we're going to say, you know what, you guys already did Captain America Civil War. You already reached that level of quality. Why couldn't you do it again? Why did you have to take a step back and do another Avengers? And now another thing I was thinking about during the movie is what's almost scary is that we know that the Marvel Cinematic Universe team can do better, because every time I've seen an MCU movie that I thought was the best, the next movie became better. We all thought Iron Man was the best comic book movie ever, right? Well, arguably, again, with Spider-Man 2 and The Dark Knight. But when we saw Iron Man, it's like, oh my God, they did it. They finally did it. They did it perfect with the CGI and the machinery and how things put together. And that's a perfect Tony Stark, and you can't get a more perfect Tony Stark. And then they threw Captain America at us. And it's like, Captain America, the first Avenger, was kind of, it was great. Steve Rogers is a perfect Captain America, or Steve Rogers. Chris Evans was a perfect Steve Rogers, Captain America. And then they threw Winter Soldier at us. And it's like, oh my God, Chris Evans is the most perfectest Captain America, Steve Rogers. And, and the Falcon is the most perfect Falcon you can ever get. Ant-Man is the most perfect Ant-Man. And we thought Ed Norton was the most perfect Hulk. And then they give us Mark Ruffalo, and he's the most perfect Hulk. And every movie, it's like, what's his name? Chris Hemsworth. I don't know if another actor can look more like Thor than Chris Hemsworth. Okay? It's like, I don't think he's real. To look like that, and to have really good acting skills, and to be built like that, and to be tall and big like that. And if you wonder about Chris Hemsworth's acting ability, now he's been in some kind of AMO movies, but watch him in the movie Rush, about Formula One racers that Ron Howard directed. I'm saying this because Chris Hemsworth, what's funny is he's not in Captain America Civil War, but his adversary in the movie Rush is Daniel Bruhl, and he plays Zemo in Captain America Civil War. Two great actors. But okay, so I kind of digress and you know go off on a tangent. But you know me, I do that. What else? What else? How much more smoke can I blow up in your face to make you want to see this movie? Um, I think, and what's weird about this is I have a feeling that it's not gonna break a whole bunch of insane records in its first weekend, but I think its second weekend is really gonna show how freaking good this movie is. And the third weekend, I think it's gonna have steady numbers for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. Um, and No, I'm not gonna predict. I'm just gonna. It's just fun to watch the fun to watch this thing just ride. It's just gonna be fun to watch it just take everybody. And there aren't any new movies, new comic book movies coming out until X-Men Apocalypse at the end of the month. So this movie has at least what 3 good weekends to go crazy. It's also one of those movies where you got to see it more than once because there's so much happening that you'll miss stuff. But you won't miss stuff to the point where you can't follow the movie. It's like the Star Wars. You got to see it again, Star Wars type thing, where there's so many little details and so many little a perfect example is the Incredibles movie. You watch that movie over and over again, and you'll see the characters. You'll hear the characters say things that you didn't hear the first time. They'll say it under their breath, or 2 people will be talking at the same time, and you'll catch one, but you won't catch the other. But the second viewing, you'll catch the other one saying something. Same as Deadpool. So, and in my opinion, Captain America: Civil War is more watchable, rewatchable than Deadpool. I think Captain America: Civil War is going to be like Force Awakens, like what we experienced with the Force Awakens. Just watch it over and over and over and over again. So hopefully you have a good theater that has cheap $6 matinee prices if you see it during the weekdays. And if you do, just watch the heck out of this movie. There are enough action scenes to where if you keep seeing it over and over again, you won't get bored. There are moments of where each character will shine, so that when you watch it the second time, you'll focus more on Wanda, the Scarlet Witch, and then when you see it the third time, you'll focus more on Black Panther, and the fourth time, Spider-Man, and etc. etc. It's got everything going for it. All right, so I even went as far, and I kind of pulled the trigger too early on this, but I was so impressed by this movie that I wrote, if you took half of Captain America: Civil War and you matched it against the combination of every other DC movie out there, half of Civil War will still be better than all those others combined. Now, I just realized, you know what? No, take the Christopher Nolan Batmans out of there, especially Batman Begins and The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger. Take those out of the equation, and in my opinion, you could make a case for that's how good Civil War is you can cram all the DC movies and put it up against half of Captain America: Civil War, and Captain America: Civil War will still win. And it's not just the action, it's not just the superheroes, it's not just the script, it's not just about the intrigue or the CGI or whatever else. It's the combination of all those things that this movie put together in such a way where it is a perfect blend. If you're old enough to have listened to music albums in its entirety, back in the day when you would buy an album by an artist or a group, and you would compare albums to albums as opposed to songs to songs. Um, uh, One of my favorite albums when I was growing up is Police Synchronicity album. That had 10 songs, and only one of those songs I thought was kind of weak. But all the other songs were spectacular, and they felt like they belonged in the same album. This is what Civil War feels like. It feels like the Police Synchronicity. Um, uh, those of you who know me know I love Billy Joel music ever since I was a kid. His Nylon Curtain album, same thing. 9 songs, uh, all of them spectacular. All of them fit into one album format. They told the story from song 1 through song 9. They were cohesive, and they felt like they belonged in the same atmosphere, in the same bubble. And this is what Civil War feels like. Um, what else? I'm going to read what I wrote on the blog page, thedailynight.net, the Daily Night with a K.net. And I wrote, this movie had touches of Jason Bourne movies, was able to juggle the dozens of heroes, villains, subplots, and locations better than The Force Awakens. And those of you who know me know I freaking love Star Wars. Okay? Has intrigue and gravitas like The Winter Soldier, comedy as funny as Ant-Man, and action sequences as good, if not better, than the original Avengers movie. And Black Panther does a better Batman than Batman in Batman vs. Superman. Um, I don't know what else I can say about this movie without spoiling anything. I'm surprised that I was able to say so many things. We're going on half an hour, perfect. I only wanted to go for like 20 minutes, but you know me, I always go another 10 whatever minutes left later or extended. So, okay, that's it. I'm probably going to go see the movie again, maybe Sunday, probably more on Monday. Wait for the matinee early show, the cheap seats. So hopefully, hopefully you'll be able to see this movie this weekend. And well, it doesn't matter. You'll enjoy it. Just don't read any of the social networks or listen to anybody talking about it. I say, besides the Han Solo thing in The Force Awakens, this movie, it's more critical that you don't hear any spoilers until you see the movie for yourself. So go see it as early as possible. So on that note, hopefully you enjoy your weekend. It's Friday right now. I'm going to post this in probably about an hour. Until I do a spoilery review of Captain America Civil War. And also another Game of Thrones is coming out on Sunday, so I'll probably include that. But until next week, until early next week, this is Gerardo San Diego. And you can find me at thedailynight.net, thedailynight with a K.net. I'm also on Twitter. I have all the links on my website. So until next time, may the Force be with you. Thank you very much. Much.